I've been hearing this nasty little phrase across the interwebs lately. They're just clothes. Throughout history, fashion has been utilized as a powerful tool for the general public to express dissent with the status quo. It's also been used by political figures as a way to brand themselves and, in a way, their cause. And in honor of Juneteenth, I want to talk about how fashion was involved in some of the biggest civil rights moments in American history. Arguably, the most well-known among the civil rights movement figures would be Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. I want to read you this excerpt from Dressing the Resistance, The Visual Language of Protest Through History by Camille Benda, and if you have not read this book, you absolutely should. It's outstanding. Phenomenal cultural shifts like Martin Luther King Jr.'s civil rights movement and Malcolm X's radical Black power activism made appropriate, modest, and respectable dress a cornerstone of their revolutionary identity. Rejecting ostentation in their own personal style, these leaders developed a visual trademark that followers could embrace, interpret, and emulate. King and Malcolm X curated images of themselves and their families that were inspiration to their followers and inescapable to their foes. Wearing a suit can be just as powerful as refusing to wear one. A tailored 1960s middle-class suit and tie conformed to the norm and said, "I'm just as much of a citizen as the president. I dress the way that he does, and I deserve the same respect." The way Dr. King, Malcolm X, and their followers dressed was an integral part of their movement's efforts. In a society that wanted to designate Black people as second-class citizens, they dressed in a way that forced people to see them as respectable men and women. Over time, protests like the Selma March and Freedom Riding adopted this dress code. It was often said that protesters wore their Sunday best while they marched. They used their clothing to project an image of Black people that directly contrasted the narrative that white nationalists were trying to push. This was incredibly successful. You'd be hard-pressed to find images of either of these men in a not perfectly tailored suit. These images of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. in their suits have become synonymous with the civil rights movements of the time. And their images have become as iconic as the movements themselves. And this is a tactic that goes back to the origins of the Black liberation movement. Frederick Douglass was also known to wear Victorian wear, jackets, suits, vests, and even a top hat at times to distinguish himself as a respectable individual. However, where some used conformity to combat social inequity, others created uniforms that were meant to directly combat white standards and respectability politics, which brings us to the Black Panther Party.